This is Things That Really Matter, a podcast by global multidisciplinary engineers Cundall that is dedicated to creating new and innovative solutions for the built environment and driving the agenda towards a more sustainable future. Join us as we discuss the challenges and changes that affect the built environment around the world with the brightest minds in our industry.
Hello and welcome to Things That Really Matter, a Cundall podcast. My name is Robert Turner. I'm a partner at Cundall in Manchester, and I'm delighted to welcome my guest today, who is Sid Williams. So Sid is co-founder and director of Embassy, the charity. So Cundall are delighted to be assisting Sid with a new project in Manchester called Embassy Village. We're just going to talk a little bit about Sid's background and the history of Embassy before moving on to explaining a little bit about how Cundall are assisting with this project. So, hi Sid.
Hi Rob, thanks for having me in.
No, thank you very much for spending the time to come and chat to us about this really interesting project. So, just to start things off really, can you just fill us in on a bit of background about Embassy, the charity, and how you ended up sat here chatting to us about this?
Of course I can, yeah. So many years ago, I was a youth worker actually, and one of the things that I did was I sort of built a fleet of double-decker buses, which we converted into sort of fun youth centres, and we had 5 of them in the end. And we used to go out and work with kids on poorer estates, and it was good. And I guess I learned a bit about how to use buses for things they were never really designed for. We used to put like tube slides through both floors and climbing walls and all sorts of. It was good. And then. But I did youth work for 14 years, and when I was much younger than I am now, when I was 18, I felt God say to me, I want you to work with homeless people as well as young people, and I thought, that's a bit that I haven't done a lot of. I'd volunteered with charities in Manchester, some brilliant charities out there doing some fantastic work, especially feeding people on the street and trying to help people into council accommodation. But it became abundantly apparent to me there was very, very little in the way of actual beds for people to stay in, emergency bedding, shelters. Yeah. That's improved significantly with Andy Burnham turning up. But before a bed every night, I found 54 beds in Greater Manchester, and that was disturbing because there was hundreds of people on the street. And so it wasn't even my idea. I won't take credit for it. It was my best friend, a guy called Alex. He used to be in a rock band that toured all around Europe. And so he knew a bit about touring, and he was like, mate, you know about buses, and did you realise that a tour bus is basically a homeless shelter on wheels, just a nice one? Yeah. I was like, bing, light bulb moment, and I left my job, managed to get some money off my auntie, and I met Tim Heatley once from Capital and Centric, and he was like, right, I'm going to give you the money you need. So between my auntie and Tim, we bought the first bus, which was it had been Coldplay's tour bus and Tiny Temper and a few others. I only really mentioned that just so you get an idea that it was quality. It wasn't some history there as well. Yeah, it wasn't a rubbish naff bus. It was quite expensive, and I didn't have the money when I agreed to buy it. But they didn't know that. No, they didn't know that, so it was okay. And then by the time I came to buy it, thankfully God had provided and I had this bus, and it was great. And then I had to employ 4 people full time, which was a bit risky because I had about $7,000 left to my name at that point. But again, it worked out, and we began sleeping homeless guys, 12 at a time, on our tour bus, and it was great. Like, we didn't need planning permission because it was on wheels, mobile, and it could go to the beach on a weekend, and it had it had a full sort of dining area, little kitchen, toilets, big hold for all people's junk, and then upstairs 12 beds, and still room for a little surround sound cinema with deeply inappropriate champagne fridge. It was great fun. So
like a self-supporting all-in-one.
Oh, totally.
Mobile.
Yeah. It was well, sort of. We parked up with a lovely charity called Manchester City Mission. Okay. And we cooked together, and they often, to be honest, did most of the cooking. But then I got good at finding food from shops. So it was a partnership, really.
Yeah.
They had a car park, so that was helpful. And I think we've always gone on like that. There's been a need for partnership with other charities, but also with companies, including Cundall's, of course.
Yeah.
So we began with a bus, and that was actually going quite well as a shelter. We were having some really good results with that, and then it sort of dawned on us. We did do some research beforehand, but there's some things you learn as you go along, and we realised that the average amount of time that especially men spend in shelters, if they're able-bodied, it's about 5.5 years wait for a council place. So that's quite a lot of life lost, and a lot of confidence goes in that time. And so we began thinking, we're fond of some of these guys, but I don't want them to be on my bus in half a decade's time. It's just
no long-term solution, is it?
No, definitely not. And so we began doing a horrible amount of business networking, and went to all sorts of different networking groups, and ended up with what is now 21 companies who partner with us to employ our guys full time. And so at the time, we naively thought, if we can get these guys into a full-time job and help them save up first month's rent and deposit, private landlords will take them, and brilliant. We can take people off the council housing waiting list, and they won't need benefits, and fantastic.
Win for everyone.
And then, of course, private landlords are like, what, you want to send me some guys from a homeless shelter? Oh, I'm not sure about that. So we worked out there's only 1 in 25 landlords were willing to give them a go. And it always worked when they did, but there was that fear involved with taking someone from the street, which I kind of understood. But it was frustrating because at one point we had I think we had near enough everyone on the bus in a job except for one guy who's at college learning English. And I just thought, how many homeless shelters have guys that we've managed to get them all into work?
All in employment,
Yeah, and some of them spent their money on ridiculous things, but most of them were making good effort to save up. And you think, I feel for these guys because they're in a difficult circumstance having the best go at this, but people aren't willing to house them. So again, it was Tim Heatley who said to me, Sid, I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're going to have to become a landlord and a housing provider. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. And I'm not sure I want to either.
Scary.
It did, yeah. And then he introduced me to James Whitaker at Peel Holdings, who I know you guys work with. And anyway, James had a plot of land kind of just on the edge of Castlefield and Hume, just near the end of the Mancunian Way. And he said, look, we got this 1.5 acres of land. It's kind of under railway arches. Not entirely sure what to do with it, but we would love to use that asset to help the homeless. So they gave us a 125-year lease and said, can you draw us what you would do with it? I had to pinch myself. This was like, what an opportunity.
Time to wake up kind of moment.
Okay, I need to. So I drew them just like, I would want a load of housing, obviously. And I'd love a place. We ended up calling it the Village Hall, where we'd have offices, but we'd have a training kitchen, and we could gather everyone to watch films and watch England lose the football and eat together.
And things like that.
Just kind of community.
Just normal stuff.
Community stuff, but also training, teaching people to budget and how to run a home, kind of a mix of practical stuff as well. And so anyway, I wasn't sure they'd say yes, but they said, yeah, go on then, let's see what we can do. So an amazing team it's about 25 companies, including Cundall's so far, have come together pro bono to help us. Initially, it was to get to planning, so we needed a design that would get to planning. And I worked out that we'd saved about £300,000 just getting to planning, which I didn't have. So good job too, really. And then we got planning, and it was like, woohoo! We had a little party. It was the first thing we did after lockdown, we sort of had a celebration.
Everyone does when they get planning for something. Everyone goes down.
So we had a party, and it was weird because there was 57 people there, and I'd only met 5 of them in real life because of COVID, so it was weird. So we had that party, and then afterwards I was like, we do still need millions of pounds to build this thing. So the party was over, and then thankfully we did a little news item. I think it was ITV. I can't remember. 6 o'clock news thing. And Matt and Jodie Moulding, who own the Hut Group, happened to be watching, thankfully, and they saw that and they were like, that's really cool. We'd like to get involved with that. But no one watches telly with a pen and paper ready to take notes. No. So they didn't remember the name of the charity or what have you. So time goes past, and it's just in the back of their heads, and I guess they're busy people. So, and they'd started a trust called the Moulding Foundation, and they were looking for first charities to support. And normally, if you're applying for funding as a charity, it's you and many other charities applying for it. But no one knew they existed, so they were sort of twiddling their thumbs and going, well, we need to find someone to apply to us. So
the other way around, isn't it? Yeah.
It's never happened this way around ever in my history of working in charities. So anyway, they contacted me eventually, and I think they'd been to see another charity that I used to work at.
Okay.
And they funded like a community supermarket they were doing. Brilliant initiative. And then they just happened to say to Andy, the CEO, they're like, you don't happen to know the guy who's trying to build some homes under some arches? He went, that can only be my mate Sid. So it's one of those wonderful sort of everything lined up. And had a call with them. And it wasn't quite as simple as that. There was about 6 months of back and forth and figuring things out. But yeah, they went for it and they said, oh, well, at the time I needed £3 million. And they said, yeah, we'll give you 3 million. It was unreal.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I had a phone call with them and they just said it so matter of fact. And my wife burst into tears, my co-founder Tess. She just burst into tears. I'm so glad she did, because I was just so kind of like, it just didn't seem real. I just went, oh, thanks.
Yours was a more glazed look and she was in tears.
Yeah. So that was cool. And then Vladimir Putin had his awful war in Ukraine, and that pushed the price of steel up. It doubled, and many other cost of materials went up as well. It's not the worst of his crimes, but still frustrating. And it added about £1 million to our build.
Okay.
So I had to go back to the funders with my tail between my legs and go, can I have another £1 million? So they said, well, we're committed to a lot of other things, but they stretched another £500,000, as you know, which is not insignificant amount. No. So that was cool, and that's still where we're at. Really, we've got £3.5 million to do a £4 million build.
Okay.
But because of the help of companies, including yourselves, that we're sort of trying to narrow that down in savings, you know.
Yeah.
And we are going out to other companies and saying, could you help us with building materials?
Yeah, I've seen your big long list of things that people have donated, which ranges from block work to...
Yeah, Crown are doing all the paint, for example. Cheshire Scaffolds doing all the scaffolding free of charge. There's a lot of kindness. Like that.
There is,
I still don't know what it adds up to, because we haven't finished all the architectural designs. Quantity surveyors haven't had a chance to go, it's this many block and it's this type of materials.
And it's interesting as well. So I think it was kind of November time that I got a call to ask would we like to be involved and support, and obviously we took one look at the kind of wider group of businesses, and we knew about the charity through probably the bus originally,
right.
And we were delighted to help. And Acoustics being an interesting one when you're building essentially residential units under a railway. So we've had some challenges, but
it's not an easy job for you.
Not straightforward, no. But then the interesting thing is you've managed to source all these things from all these parties in terms of building materials.
Yeah.
But then there is still that kind of due process to go through in terms of people asking you. I've sat laughing when I've seen certain emails, and between us we're trying to put a specification to some blocks that someone's giving you out the goodness of their own heart. So
and I've naively accepted them. And
you take anything. So it's really kind of uplifting project for us to be involved with, because it's like a collective kind of will, if you like, from lots of parties involved that are just amazing. Trying to make this thing happen.
It is a team effort, and that's one of the humbling things about it. It's not my project. Do you know what I mean? Like I've got a team as well, busy. Currently they're working in shared houses, and we're leasing properties off private landlords. The village is going to half our costs in terms of housing per person.
Okay.
So we'll be able to look after 4 times the number of people we do now. Yeah. We double the price, which is amazing.
Yeah. And so what's the kind of numbers then, just for the listeners? So
numbers of what? Sorry.
Of how many people you'll be able to accommodate, and how long people will stay, and all that.
Yeah.
Kind of
sorry,
stuff.
I didn't even touch on any of that. So the village will accommodate 40 men. We don't mix men and women. We are working with women, but we don't mix men and women for reasons that probably are obvious.
Yeah.
So it will house 40 chaps, but they have their own front door. At the moment, we're in shared houses, HMOs that we've got, and it's okay. And you kind of got, our biggest one has 5 guys in it. You have to say, oh, do you mind not cooking while I teach so-and-so how to cook? Because we do 6.5 hours a week per person of teaching people to shop, cook. Budget is the big one, really.
Okay.
And then it's a live practice run at managing home. And for a lot of our guys, if they've come out of the armed forces or the care system, maybe prison, or maybe they're from another country, or maybe actually just their mum or their girlfriend or their wife used to do everything. For a lot of them, it's just first time they've managed a home. And finances, they seem to have that in common. A lot of them are not great at finances. So we do somewhere between coaching and parenting, depending on the individual. But what's amazing is we're seeing people who the council will send to us and go, I don't think this person's ever going to really get a job and run their own home, but if you want to try. And then we get them into full-time work, and they're shopping, cooking, budgeting, managing things, growing in confidence. There's some of those guys that we were told that we are taking. We've got a group of 7 going out to Kenya to go help build a school in a slum in 2 weeks' time. Isn't that amazing? Some of them have been on a plane before, or left Manchester. So that cost me money as well, which we have to fundraise every time. But the value of it is incredible, And so for me, that's where the joy is seeing people who, it's not just me going, I reckon you can do this. I have to convince them they reckon they can do that in the first place. Because people come to us with this much kind of confidence and hope and aspiration, and we have to sort of gently go, I reckon you can do more than that.
Take them on a journey.
So it's a privilege, and it's not always easy.
No.
But we are seeing, what's remarkable is the current system, if you take people from shelters and put them in council housing, which a lot of people are doing that, lots of charities try and focus on that. Not only is there that average 5.5 year wait, which doesn't do people's mental health much good, it's still a 50% fail rate once people are housed. So what we mean by that is half of people choose to go back to the street because they are so overwhelmed by the responsibility of managing a home for the first time, and they are lonely because they're sat there doing nothing. Whereas our guys, we've never had anyone choose to go back to the street, even once they've moved on from us. We've moved 47 chaps on now. Only 2 have gone to council housing. So that's good news for the council. But it also means that we're primarily seeing people into full-time work. So they're not at home doing nothing, bored. And they've had a go at running a home with us and made some fantastic mistakes. One guy, who I won't name just in case for some reason he finds this. We helped him get on his feet, helped him get into work. First paycheck, buys a drum kit. Can't pay his rent. So we had another
drum kit.
It was a cool drum kit. He had to take it back to the shop. There was also, but then he's gone and he's found a band to go play with and got an electric drum kit with headphones, so that's good. There's another guy who didn't pay his rent for the first 3 months. Lovely guy, did all the budgeting training as well. So there was a bit of a disconnect between theory and real life. Again, couldn't pay his rent for the first 3 months. And we said, let's call him Mark, because he wasn't called Mark. I said, Mark, what happened? And he's like, well, the thing is, I bought this Apple laptop and some awesome trainers. And I was like, those are some awesome trainers. You're not wrong. However, there's a bit of a problem.
If
I was a regular landlord, I'd be kicking you out now. And she's like, no, that's a thing. So then,
that's a real thing,
so we did the training again. You can do it again, aren't you? Yeah, okay. But to be fair to him, months 4 to 6, he pays his rent in full and on time. And he's really pleased with himself as well, which was lovely. So then sat down with him and we were like, have you heard of a word called arrears? And he's like, no, what is it? It's like, stop smiling. It's where you still owe me. Do you remember? He's like, no. Like, yeah, how do you not know this? So I said to him, look, because you're doing well and the habits you're in is what I'm actually interested in, and because I'm a not-for-profit anyway, let's forget about it. So that's the privilege we have, is that really it's about what is the outcome in the person's life. And then we got him a full-time job, and he's now living in his own place and renting, and his employers are really pleased with him. In fact, he's done so well that we've got another chap. They said, send us more people. So we've got another guy who's still living with us, now working there. A guy who hadn't worked for 22 years. So it's that kind of, it's
that fulfillment.
Doubletree by Hilton in the town centre. Lovely guys. And they're one of many employers who are willing to take a risk on some of these guys. And yet they're proving to be, loyal, hard-working guys who are grateful for a job, so they don't flit around, they stay. So,
and that's where you guys come in, because you facilitate that movement from off the street to employment, and then hopefully permanent
Yeah,
housing.
yeah, exactly. And depending on the individual, I mean, flipping it. I've got one employee, Cyprian, who's Kenyan, and he's got this incredible work ethic, actually. And he will literally get up early, go and get our guys out of bed, have breakfast with them, get the bus together to work, do a full day's work with them, come home with them, have dinner with them, and then go home.
Right.
He did that for one guy 3 days on the trot.
Okay.
Just to help them get their feet under the table, that first
Get
few
them
days.
into it. Yeah.
So it's quite intensive, but I'd rather put a lot of work into a few people and not have to do it again in 6 months' time. See them succeed. So, yeah, it's working. It's and so the village that you're working on with us is going to allow us to upscale that.
It's kind of the next step in your journey as a charity and what you can deliver. So, and it's not. I guess some people listening might be thinking it's kind of a bed for a night. Because that's Andy Burnham's done an amazing job, and trying to get people off the street temporarily. But this is longer term.
That's right. Yeah, there are really a lot of it's to do with Andy Burnham's influence. There are now so many more bed spaces for kind of what you'd think of as a shelter, where and some of them are you just turn up, and some of them once you're in, as long as you don't disappear, sort of thing. However, there is very little next step, sort of move on. So I'm sure many lives have been saved in the very cold, when it was -10 and all that. But people are kind of, it's a holding pen in many ways. It's like we've got lots of travel agents, no holiday destination is what it's like. So the council in Manchester and in Salford, they've been really positive towards the MC Village, and to, separately, if there's time, I'll mention we're doing a project hopefully in Salford next for women, to grow our kind of our offering to the Greater Manchester area. But I think for me it's that ability to take someone and actually cut out the shelter middleman altogether. That 5.5 years wait. Why do we need that at all? So now we're taking guys straight from the street, or sometimes from a shelter, but they've not been there long. And so we interview people, and if we think they're right and they think we're right for them, because there is a certain kind of, there's a program, there's 6.5 hours a week, which isn't a lot really of compulsory training.
Okay.
And then there's lots of other stuff we build, optional stuff, things like football that we do every week, that's optional. Going out planting trees, that's optional. Prayer and Bible study, optional. Some of our guys are from other faiths or whatever. Well, actually, some of them, they're curious, but the things that's compulsory, I don't think it's a big ask. It's just budgeting, shopping,
life
cooking.
Skills.
Yeah, stuff, the building blocks for managing a life, really. But yeah, we're so excited about the village because it will allow us to say you became homeless, Rob, and you spend 5 years in a shelter with lots of other guys that you're not sure if you trust, or we'll be able to take you and give you your own front door and your own home to practice
Must be
managing.
very symbolic, that having a key to your own door.
It's huge for people psychologically. Yeah.
Okay. In terms of timescales, then, you mentioned the slight detail of £500,000 that you're still trying to raise, but in an ideal world,
that did set us back a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, as soon as possible is a bit of a vague answer. We're hoping to be on site and doing work, I guess beginning groundworks in about September. That would be amazing if we could do that.
Yeah.
I know, so Sunbelt Rentals, for example, said we'll lend you all the plant hire and fencing and welfare units, the whole lot, and so we're talking with Russells, who are going to be our principal contractor, and then obviously they'll work with their subcontractors, and we're looking maybe for a groundworks contractor to come in and help us do some early works. We're just keen to get going. Really.
And are you still looking for that groundworks contractor, or is that?
We're in discussion with one that I don't know if I'm supposed to mention them or not at this point, but no, it's not landed per se. And this is the thing: there may be people watching who go, "Oh, well, our company would like to get involved in a bit of a DIY SOS kind of. Can we do it at cost or at a friendly rate?" Or same with materials. Whilst we've got lots of lovely offers, certainly we haven't got everything boxed off with. Anyone watching who goes, we could provide materials or a service in the construction process.
Yeah,
love to hear from.
That was my next question, really. So
sorry, I've preempted it.
No, it's good. It was just really a question. This is, I suppose, the moment to just tell people how they can help or how they might be able to get in touch. And it could be, we could be talking about help with the construction, but there might well be listeners who are just thinking, it sounds a really worthwhile cause. How can I donate, or how can I spare some time? So what's the best way of getting involved?
That's great. To me, that's like a red rag to a bull.
Right.
I know what to say. Well, I get cold hard cash is always welcome because we've got that deficit to find.
Yeah.
And people might want to fund the tangible build, or they may be more interested in helping us with our cost of. We've got to double our staff to 12 of us. To run it. So if that appeals, that's amazing. Because we find a lot of people are like, oh no, I want something tangible I can get a photo of. Not many companies and want to fund salaries, but actually that's mission critical. Okay. Also, materials, building. If you can provide building materials of any kind, it's worth getting in touch, because chances are either the architects or the landscape designers will go, we could use that. And then what else? I guess it's even private, personal individuals still make up the biggest bulk of our income. You know, so we don't rely very heavily on rent at the moment. It's less than 10% of our income, and then about 30% is corporates. So we've got companies go, you know what, we'll journey with you for £100 a month or what have you, and that's amazing, because some companies go, we'll do a big one-off thing and then you're back to square one. But I love meeting the middle-sized companies with 10 to 200 staff. Because they tend to go, we don't have a whole department for kind of corporate social responsibility or what have you, but we'd love to get behind a charity and journey. Yeah, and just go along
with you.
Yeah, so that's really valuable to me, because there's a bit of forecast. I used to run business. It's forecastable income is always good, right? But people journey with us, and we're small enough that I still have time to go for a pint or a coffee every now and then with the companies that support us regularly, to catch up.
Which is important.
Or go
those relationships along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that team effort thing. And then I guess the other one is introduction. Sometimes people go, oh, Sid, we're giving you £100 a month, and that's quite a lot for us as a little company. Is there anything else we can do? And if they're not builders or what have you, I tend to go, could you introduce me to someone? So like the Lowry Hotel, very kindly say, whenever you want, Sid, we'll do a meal, sit down, 3-course meal, lunch time for 15 people, and you bring people to the table, which is really generous. It's a 5-star hotel, so good lunch. And then I tend to bring a few people who are already supporting us and say, just bring a couple of people with you
who might be interested.
So worst case scenario, people get a really nice lunch, but it tends to be that then people go, all right, if so-and-so's doing it, I'll do it. And that would be great as well.
And I guess really taking it back to what we said at the start, that's kind of how this whole thing
started,
really, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit of networking. It's amazing how far that's gone. Yeah. And I suppose the other thing is employment. We're always looking for more employers. We have more employers than guys that we're housing, but of course not all those employers have a job opening right now. So and when we've got 40 guys in the village, I'll definitely need more. So
you'll need just a bigger pool of potential employers.
Yeah, a nice range of different employers. That'd be amazing. Some of our employers have found it incredibly rewarding. And then just a throwaway thing, if anyone's watching going, that's amazing, what about the women? We are looking to build some homes in Salford specifically for women. It won't be a big, well publicised, everyone knows where it is, village, because about half of homeless women are fleeing someone abusive.
Okay.
So it's not appropriate to say, here it is, with a big shiny light over the top of it. But we're doing smaller builds, little two beds, that sort of thing. And again, we're kind of reaching out, and we've got an architect again pro bono on that, and we've got QS pro bono on that, and got a construction company, Morris and Spottiswoode, they're saying they're going to make a loss on it, but they really want to help. So there's some lovely people out there, but we still need support on those things as well.
Yeah. Okay. And there'll be, like you say, there's an almost endless list of other consultants, architects, landscapers who are helping deliver this project. We'll try and tag those in social media.
Yeah, brilliant.
You having to list them all out now. Yeah, so one last thing, just the websites, where people find that info.
Yeah, good shout. Website is embassyvillage.co.uk, and it's got some lovely CGI images that our studio did, again, for free. It's really kind of them. And it gives you a great idea of what it'll look like. So give you a bit of a feel for it, and you'll be able to see exactly where it is. That'd be good.
Yeah, and it's a proper construction project.
It is a proper project. Yeah,
it's not just a few, it's not a. I suppose what I mean by that, it's not like a temporary thing that
sure.
like it's not part of the fabric of Manchester, which it will
sure
be.
We've got a 125-year lease, so we're going for traditional blockwork build rather than anything. Once upon a time we were talking, do we need shipping containers to make it cheap? But as we've gone on and all the support has come in, and we've gone, no, actually we've got the opportunity to do this properly, so
traditional build.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob.
Sid, for spending the time again. Hope that's been insightful for the listeners. It's a great project for us to be involved with, and Cundall are really pleased to be supporting it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And just to say, I'm very grateful to Cundall's doing all our acoustics work. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is a podcast by Cundall. We're a carbon neutral business committed to achieving zero carbon design on all our projects by 2030. To work with us and help us achieve our goals, visit cundall.com.